Hey, Mr. Hausman, checking in?
Hey, yeah, it's great to be here, but it's a little loud, don't you think?
Yeah, we like to set the mood right when you get into the lobby.
Oh, that's good. Then you won't mind I invited 300 people to party in my room tonight.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. You know I'm excited and delighted to have you here each and every single week, and I'm hoping that you're taking the time to share with your friends, your coworkers, your family, strangers on the street, and dare I even say it, maybe even your mortal enemies, because they need good hospitality podcasting too in their lives. So be sure to check out the NoVacancyNews.com site, and if you're not getting my Sunday night newsletter, I encourage you to drop everything right now and text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. And before we go any further, a huge shout out thank you to Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform thousands of hotels are using to make more money, because this show is brought to you in part by them. So they are helping me bring you great content every week, and there's nothing I would like more than for you to help them out. Learn more about them at getrevenueresults.com and how you guys can make more money. And if you go to novacancynews.com and click on their ad, you'll be able to download the blueprint for taking business back from OTAs, which is a great white paper, which I highly encourage you to listen to read and check out. All right. So, get set. We're going to set the gear shift to the high gear of your soul today, because once again, I have Mr. Corey Nyman with me of the Nyman Group, one of the most plugged in, influential people in the Las Vegas market the general public hasn't heard of, but anyone who's anyone in Las Vegas knows. Corey, welcome aboard to the show once again.
Glenn, always a pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
So this is exciting, man. You guys came from no national hockey team to one that is now in the Stanley Cup. Congratulations to the Las Vegas Golden Knights and to you for, doing nothing for the team but being in Las Vegas.
You know, our Vegas Golden Knights came from absolutely nowhere. No one thought they'd be anything except themselves, the organization, and the city. Mm-hmm. And now that we're in the Stanley Cup final, we're waiting for who our opponent's going to be. And it is uplifting. It is fantastic. It is emotional. Our whole city is behind them, and it gets better every day. I mean, we all keep laughing like, we don't want it to stop. We want to ride this magic carpet ride as long as we can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I will tell you, this has been such a great boost for the city in general. And even, I would say, more importantly for the NHL, which had been not as high profile in recent years as it could have been. But because they went to Las Vegas, all the major press that they've gotten and all the terrific fans that they've gotten, such as yourself, who I believe has a big season ticket package to go to. So you guys are all out there supporting it, and it's great to see the whole high profile of the league. Now, Corey, I was in Vegas at the beginning of May for the Choice Hotels annual conference and the HD Expo event. And the city and its residents were so filled with excitement, and I've never seen anything like it for a professional sports team, especially for hockey in a desert city.
Well, it's at the end of the day, it's a point of pride, and it gave, our city. We always joke that our city needed that sports team or something to bring it together, and unfortunately, a tragedy to bring us together. Right. But as also the Knights, the organization, they've done everything right. The players have done everything right. They've given back. They've been there, mm-hmm. and they want to be here. And with the NHL, NHL's gone through its ebbs and flows.
Yep.
But they celebrated their 100th year in 2017.
Wow.
And it's been around that long.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you have an organization that was, for professional sports in the country, and for some times kind of got forgotten about. And hockey is as hot as it's ever been. Without a doubt, it's exciting. It's fun. It's a party in the desert. It's a serious hockey team. I mean, they take themselves extremely serious, but they like to have fun. Their promotions in-game, pre-game, during, at the end of the game, it's unbelievable. They're throwing a party. They're staging a show every night, and we just so happen to have an amazing hockey team that just won the Western Conference.
Yeah, so I'm so excited. I really, when we were down there, I was hoping to be able to catch a game myself, but it's so popular, you can't get tickets except for exorbitant fees, which are well earned. I get that. I mean, everybody and anybody is into the city. Even Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty replica out front of the New York casino, has a giant Golden Knights jersey on, which I think is so fun. It is so hysterical.
It's awesome. That jersey's 600 pounds, and they put that on her. Down the street over at Caesars, you had Caesar was wearing. He had a Go Knights Go. He had a stick. He had everything. So I mean, the city's into it. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you are. I mean, the entire city is latched onto this, whether it's from the pep rallies they do at kids' schools, whether it's from the marketing and promotions team out in the city, whether it's for a custom Vegas-born Lamborghini that they allow one of our players to drive to and from games. I mean, there is so much happening, and it's just we have Knights fever. We ridiculously have Knights fever, and it came around at the right time. It's worked. It makes sense. And they sell tickets. They sell merchandise. People are just excited. And, for years, Glenn, this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I always had a lot of pride in my city, and just like everyone else who lives here, and you travel and you go somewhere, and maybe you'd be wearing a Vegas T-shirt or Las Vegas, and people are like, oh, Vegas, when did you go last, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I live there. And now you wear a Vegas hat anywhere else in the country. Oh, hey, Golden Knights, got it. And so it's this complete and utter flip. Obviously, we're still known to have a great time here. We throw a party every weekend. We've got 47 million visitors through McCarran last year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now it's hockey.
Yeah.
And we are a hockey town, and I mean, it's the perfect storm.
Yeah. So is the excitement for hockey helping create that energy for the impending debut of NFL football? Because when I was staying at Mandalay Bay in early May, I could see a great view of them moving dirt back and forth and looking like something eventually is going to happen.
I think that people are excited, but I believe I'm in the camp, just like a lot of other people in this city, that we're more excited for the stadium. Yeah. And we're more excited for the fact that we'll be able to host NCAA Final Fours.
Ooh.
We'll host a Super Bowl. NFR might move there. You've got all the soccer matches, all the potential just to have a world-class 65, 70,000 seat stadium, throwing distance of the Strip is huge. I mean, obviously the NFL is going to be a big deal, but you're talking 8 to 10 dates a year plus. For us, it's all the other things. I mean, we already have 4 college, conference basketball tournaments here. You have NFR, you have PBR, you have all these things that go on that can now use that, and then the benefit to UNLV. I mean, concerts. I mean, who knows what's going to go on there? But it's going to be an epic. It goes back to the epic further development of our city,
right? Where
you have T-Mobile, you have the Raiders Stadium, you have the Madison Square Garden sphere that they're building further down the Strip for entertainment. Mm-hmm. So Vegas continues to reinvent itself and redevelop itself. I mean, yes, remember we had gaming, then we had food, then we had what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. We have all these things, but now it's like, wait a minute. We could be a great world-class sports destination in addition to be a great world-class entertainment destination, and you still have 150,000-plus rooms to host all these conventions?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So speak about world-class entertainment destination. I, for one, am super excited. I think it's going to be 2020 for the big MSG Sphere that's going to be coming to Las Vegas. That's going to be pretty cool, reinventing the way that people are going to experience concerts. I think it's going to be behind Venetian Palazzo, if I'm correct. Am I right on,
you are
on that
correct.
one? Yeah.
You are correct.
That's going to be pretty cool. And for all of you who aren't familiar with it, I highly recommend you check out, just Google MSG Sphere. You too are going to be excited because it's really going to create great individual pointed sound. No more need for giant speakers in the front, and you hope you get a good seat, but I don't know what they're doing with the technology, but it's going to be absolutely superb. But, we were talking before we started here about how Las Vegas reinvents itself, and you just mentioned the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas campaign. Well, as we're recording this on Tuesday, the show gets released a few days later, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau introduced a brand new advertising campaign called Only Vegas Moments, which is a series of 4 digital shorts, films, and broadcasting spots. Very interesting. Corey, I know you had a chance to take a look at that. I'm fascinated by it because I think they're making a smart transition away from just being focused on, you could get away with stuff while you're here, into something that's more mature, more complex, while also following the current advertising trends of more storytelling and content marketing rather than just a catchy phrase.
Well, and Glenn, I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. But one of the things that they did, obviously, they want to focus on the entire Vegas Valley.
Yep.
And people are discovering that we have outdoors here. We have hiking, we have biking, we have trails, we have all that. Just the same as we have 5-star hotels and resorts.
Right.
Just the same as we have concerts and sporting events. And so they did their 4 different storylines, which I think are great. I mean, some can be a little cliche at times, as we discussed.
Yep.
But you know what? They evoke an emotion. And
yeah, sorry to cut you off, but you're so absolutely right. All right, so Corey said there are 4. The first one that I watched is one called Now and Then. It's about a LGBTQ couple, 2 women that met in Vegas, and a few years later, one of them proposes to the other, and they go through the whole scenario of should we get married, shouldn't we get married, and also going through the whole idea of would mom and dad approve of this? Can we get married without them? All of these issues that straight couples feel, but also the extra burden that gay couples feel at the same time, all wrapped up together in a great happy story that while it may have had some cliche moments in it, I gotta tell you, Corey, I still shed a tear at the end, even though I knew what was coming. I don't know how they did it. So for 3.5 minutes, great fun, interesting entertainment, and something I really enjoyed watching.
And I did too, and I think it's the best spot out of the 4, candidly.
Yep.
But at the same time, Vegas has always been open for business and open for everyone. People always said, hey, what happens on Thanksgiving? What happens on Christmas? I'm like, we're busy. And, because there's no perfect family, there's no perfect situation. People always said, well, yeah, but maybe they're not having Thanksgiving dinner. I'm like, well, Thanksgiving dinner, maybe someone lost a parent, maybe they are an LGBTQ couple and they want to have their experience. Vegas remains open to serve any and all people.
Yep.
And we never, obviously there's going to be certain people who judge, but that's not our type. I mean, Vegas always said, listen, come, have fun with us, party, experience, live, drink, eat, do whatever, and be who you are. If you want to be someone different, you can do that too, which is proof of one of the spots. But the idea is, we are here for you to make it's kind of like that choose your own adventure experience, right?
Yes.
That's what it really is.
Which, by the way, it has nothing to do with this conversation at all. They're talking about doing choose your adventure movies where in the actual movie theater with a couple 100 other people, you will all get to vote on different scenarios and change the movie itself as it's playing. I think that's going to be pretty cool. But again, nothing to do with this. So another video they had was a party of one, which I thought was great because there's a lot of times I'm in Las Vegas when I'm alone, and sometimes I'm burdened by that FOMO, that fear of missing out, that I don't want to stay in my room, but what am I going to do if I'm out? And this particular ad hits that right on the head.
And it's so funny. I remember it's a number of years ago now, and Travel and Leisure wrote that Vegas was the #1 loneliest place to be by yourself.
Right.
And I kind of always laughed about it. I mean, Vegas is also a perfect place to be by yourself.
Right.
Because you can just go and do it. And the woman in it, you obviously, there's some foreshadowing as to who she is, what she did, fine. But you can have your own experience. You can, whether it's dinner, whether it's drinks, whether it's dancing, whether it's a pool, whether it's pampering yourself. Vegas allows you to have that experience. You can meet people, you can not meet people, you can hang in your suite, whatever you want to do. And the party of one concept is great. I think more and more people are going to come to Vegas with that party of one mentality because you have the ability to create your own adventure. I mean, I travel by myself around the world, and I love nothing more than going and having an adventure and discovering that city and discovering the place. And a lot of people have done that in other cities, but now, wait a minute, I'd come to Vegas and do the exact same thing. What a concept.
Yeah, totally. I think it's great, and I think it gives us permission to have more fun when you're alone. To me, it's so much easier to be alone in a hotel on a beach in Florida than it is in Las Vegas because of that extra self-inflicted pressure of, I got to go out and do this, I got to go out and do that. But for folks that aren't used to traveling by themselves, they show how easy and exceptional it can be. One spot called The Anniversary is great. It's all about rekindling a relationship and done in an interesting, clever, Vegas-y kind of way. But I think my second favorite one is the Meetup because the music was definitely the sound-alike and feel-alike of Ocean's 11 type of kind of a scenario, but not that at all. Put it into the terms of the regular everyday man, which I think was very interesting and unique as well.
Oh, sure. And I because we have so many conventioneers who are here, and some of them do take on that person, different persona. And, I love it. He was a carpet salesman. I mean, it's genius.
Yeah.
It's just, he's got his business, his business, stainless steel attaché. It's great. And he had the ability to create this experience. And Vegas allowed him that and literally went hand in hand with it, which is perfect. Yep. So, it was fun. It was funny. It was lighthearted. And still you could tell the guy, I could see that guy in friends of mine who come to town. And I know that. And I know they do this for a fact because that's just who they are. And that's their enjoyment. They come once, twice a year and they're here for a convention and they become this personality.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I strive to live every day of my life like I live my life when I'm in Las Vegas, because that's the person I truly want to be. But I highly encourage everyone to check out these ads. They're going to be in the show notes. I'll link to the No Vacancy News page, which will take you to all of the ads so you can see them yourself. I'd love to hear what you think about them. If you agree with Corey and myself about that, they're very effective advertising and marketing for a destination. And I encourage all of you out there that are in different destinations to think a little bit more about how creating interesting content that relates to the story your city is trying to tell, but also connects emotionally with the way people are living their lives. I think that is a successful formula that they are mining to great results in this particular campaign. It'll be great to see if it can be as enduring, although it's almost impossible to be as enduring as what happens to stay in Vegas. That has become part of the American vernacular, and it's not going anywhere.
Definitely not. Listen, I think at the end of the day, Vegas remains open for business, and we are here for you to tailor your own experience. Yep. And I truly believe in the choose your own adventure, and I give the LVCVA so much credit because they constantly are reinventing themselves and reinventing the image of what we could, should, and may be, and what you want to make it, which is great.
Yep. I think it's absolutely terrific too, and I hope to get some of the execs from there on the show soon. But speaking of reinvention, right? We've talked about. I feel like this is the theme of the show today. One of the things that I think Las Vegas has done an exceptional job with over the last, it's going to probably be about 5 years now, that instead of trying to create wholly new resorts, they're reinventing the elements within the resorts, most notably the Monte Carlo Casino, which is now officially the Park, turning what I perceived as a plain vanilla fine experience, but not really memorable experience into the Park, which I hope is going to better connect with the people that are going to be experiencing the property, and also a nice compliment to all the work they've been doing on creating that arena where the Knights play and the whole park concept. Corey, I had a chance to see the theater a little bit, never saw a show, but heard that amazing sound system. Have you been to the in the process of being reinvented Park Hotel, and what are your thoughts on it?
Glenn, I have, and because we have attended many of the Knights games, I would go from Aria to Monte Carlo / the Park, and go to the Park in front, and as well going to the arena. And I have been fortunate enough to see a concert at the Park Theater.
Oh, cool! Lucky you.
Yeah, yes,
I think Widespread Panic you went to.
Correct.
Yes.
Never miss a Sunday show.
Yeah.
Correct, sir. Correct.
Man, I gotta go see a show there. I would really like to be able to do that, but I missed out on that Widespread Panic show because I went to go see Trey across the street at Brooklyn Bowl, and I didn't realize Widespread was there. Nothing against you, Trey, but I've seen you and Fish about 180 times.
He has to come back. Widespread's coming back. It's good.
Okay, awesome.
There's a lot we'll discuss later.
So what do you think about the new look and feel? Of course, it's not 100% there. They're building Italy, which is going to be out in the front part. So they totally demolished the restaurants that were out there, like Diablo's, got rid of everything out there. So there's no formal entryway from the Strip right now, but it's close enough that you could see where it's at and where you feel that it's headed to.
Well, I think there are a couple things. Let's take it back for a second. Monte Carlo was a solid 3-star hotel at best.
Yeah,
at best.
It was fine. I was happy to go, and I was to sleep there and use it as a launch pad for experiences in Vegas.
Correct, but it was nothing special. It was that vanilla, to your point.
Right.
But it's a great location, and the location, because of the new arena, because of the park and all the restaurants out there, the connection to New York, the connection to the Aria, it served a very good purpose. And it was a great jumping off point. And so for them to say, listen, we have this demand for a 5-star resort. We have this demand for restaurants, all these things, and we have the footprint to do it in a 3,000 plus room hotel. Why not?
Yeah.
And because MGM has continued to reinvest in themselves and their properties, it made a lot of sense. It was able, because the one thing I think you and I have discussed this, Vegas always trades up. People in Vegas always keep trading up. And because as they get a little more money, as they get a little more older, whatever, and it goes back to some of the old motels that were, by Mandalay that are gone. Everyone kept moving up and raising, what they're going to have. And so that's what the park is allowing people to do. And it's more of that citified feel. There are a lot of kiosks to check in. There's different restaurants, whether it be Primrose, Bavette's is getting some great recognition.
Really great recognition.
There's some great bar experiences. So the key goes back to, are they going to price themselves above or out of the market? Because there is a point of when are too many 5-star hotels or 5-star experiences much. So you have the connection to Aria. Aria, I believe, continues to, round of applause. They continue to improve, get better. They're doing it. So the question is going to go back to, who are the people who are going to stay at the park? What's their barrier or cost to entry of the hotel rooms? And is it a different feel than what was there before? So, there are a lot of things there. Eataly has to prove itself. Listen, I want Eataly to succeed, but how much is going to be sit-down restaurants or sit-down experiences versus buying goods? Because as we all know, there are not a lot of kitchens or kitchenettes in Vegas hotel rooms.
I understand that it's just going to be the different restaurant components, not really an emphasis on the shopping part of it.
Okay. All right. And that's where a lot of concern comes through.
Absolutely. And I think that they probably learned that lesson with previous projects that they worked on, where they tried to force the residential aspect of living on the Strip, which I don't think was really embraced in the way that people were hoping that it would be embraced. But my biggest concern, Corey, and I've been saying this a bunch, I'm curious as to what an insider thinks about this, is that I feel like they're appealing more and more and more to the convention goer, and not the convention goer, but to the convention goer's expense account, which plays into everything that you're saying, from parking fees and these other fees to drinks costing on average, a good drink, $18 a pop. It's really starting to get to the point, in my concern, that the typical mid-priced vacation goer is no longer going to go to the Strip. Fortunately, you and I both have a love affair with downtown, and I think that's going to be a new place for visitors. But how are you seeing it play out, being the consummate city insider?
I couldn't agree with you more on the conventioneer. Yeah. They are definitely, the city is appealing to conventioneers, conferences, et cetera. And it comes to a point. And, you look at the $650 million that's being invested in the Palms. You look at no parking being charged at the Venetian. You look at some of the things, you look at Palace Station, you look at Red Rock is as busy as it's ever been. And I think that parking fees are finally, it's coming to a head. It's making a difference. You look at that family of 4, the family of 6 used to drive from LA in their minivan with the cooler. They will stop staying at places because of the parking fees.
Right.
That's a fact, because it's disposable income. And it goes back to the barrier to entry. And yes, we have always appealed to conventioneers. We will see more and more. You look at the convention center extension that was built at Mandalay. You look at the expansion at Aria. There has to be a point of no return.
Yeah,
and we're getting to it.
Yeah,
and I'm generally concerned about it. And as a local, I have a challenge going to certain places because of my thing was always this. Say I go to Caesars and I don't have a player's card and we charge for parking. Say I go out to dinner. Say I go to Mesa Grill. I spent $250 for a party of 2, which is not far-fetched. There's no validation. There's no validation for my parking. And I find that to be a challenge, because why not reward your guest who's coming to spend, or at least give them another reason to come? And you look at, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were. Mon Ami Gabi had an advertisement for locals where, because they would you could park at Paris, Mon Ami would discount your bill, I believe, 20% to offset the parking charge.
Wow.
It came out about 6 or 9 months ago. And that's real. Locals are having problems, and locals are the ones who support it.
Right.
So it's a challenge.
I'm shaking my head, and which you can't really see on a podcast, but I'm shaking my head because I feel badly that the operators of that particular eating establishment have to lower their profits in order to get people to come in here. And that's very symbolic of what I'm afraid is going to happen. The other issue that I'm seeing out there is I speak to a lot of my vendors. Now, this is not the typical Vegas story, but a lot of the folks that are that are doing business at all the different hotels, sometimes they've got to go to 3, 4, 5 different resorts in a single day for meetings. All of a sudden, they're spending a lot of money on parking, and it's really hurting the average customer. Then you add add in, when you stay there, the resort fees, and again, with the how expensive the food is going, it's starting to become a concern to me. So hopefully the introduction of the Only Vegas Moments campaign is going to try to get people to forget about that for a little while and come back.
We'll try anything here. I mean, and we need it. Certain hotels, there's certain hotels I won't go to because of that very fact.
Yeah.
And certain times I'll take a meeting on the Strip and I'm making sure I tailor it so I don't have to worry about some of those parking charges.
That's crazy.
And that's a fact of life.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. It's very.
I still don't understand why there's no program for locals, for example.
Glenn, and there was, and MGM did it, and then Caesars did it, and and they took it away. And so, I mean, we still are a city of 2+ million people. The city still, the Strip does rely on tourists and all that, but they rely on locals to actually have a positive thing to say about it.
Yep.
And I hope that some of these companies will remember that. I really do, because the people who are running these companies are locals themselves.
Yeah, that's so true.
So they're all based here.
Yeah.
So why dissuade them from coming to your location?
Yeah.
And it's very unfortunate. It really is.
So, Corey, you mentioned Palms. I can't believe I completely forgot about Palms. Yes, they are just reinvented themselves, and just this past week they debuted a whole lot of new concepts, all sorts of new bars and restaurants, trying to bring back the energy that they had when they became the must-see place. Gosh, I guess it's got to be about 18 years ago already when they first opened.
Little bit less, because you had the MTV Real World Suite, which I think was about 10+ years ago.
Yeah.
But that's where really you had every Midwestern tourist who watches MTV who wanted to come to Vegas.
But also that I felt what made Palms really special is they were the first ones to really capture by understanding that nightclub market. And they did an exceptional job, I think, at that. And then it kind of spread out the whole city. You're pointing at me. All right. So
I am pointing at because, but here's, and I kind of agree and disagree with you.
Okay, go for it.
What I found interesting about, because there were many nightclubs before the Palms who really did it.
Yeah.
What most excited me about the Palms was they divided their hotel casino into two halves.
Right.
Because they realized the tourists and where they wanted to be, by the pools, by the nightclub, by the Sky Bar, things like that. All that, and then you had Nine and Nove, etc. And Nyman Group, and you had the Moon. On the other side, you had the movie theater.
Yep.
You had the sports book, and you had the food court.
Yep.
So locals could still come in and gamble. They could do their thing, and they didn't have to meet these tourists in the middle.
Very clever.
You could interplay. Right. So the Palms knew that they were off strip. So you had to drive that local experience through to still use the movie theater, to still gamble at their sports book, and maybe they make their way to the buffet or go to the Players Club and pick up their gifts and the rewards.
Yep.
So they really figured out how to mesh them together by keeping them apart, which is kind of funny.
Right.
And you look at Red Rock, they've done a really nice job on that too. But it's the reinvention is keeping that same idea where how do we keep the stratus of the tourists here or the locals here and having them meet in the middle without ever meeting.
Right. I love it. That's a great idea. So do you think that it is going to be successful? Because they're a little bit far off and kind of to me, like, I want them to succeed. I want everybody to succeed, but I don't think they're going to have that top of mind awareness that they had that 10, 15 year ago period. I think it's going to be more of a challenge to get people to jump into the cab or jump into the Uber to go over there than it might have previously been. Please tell me I'm wrong and why.
I think partially you are wrong. And I think one of the reasons why is because of the parking charges.
Yep.
I think the fact that you can go there, you can have a self-contained hotel, and for you to get in an Uber that costs $5 to $10 to take you to any other strip hotel and be able to go back is a huge deal. And I think that they've done, they've added new restaurants, they're adding in new nightlife experiences. You've got the Pearl there, which is still the best sounding room in the entire city for concerts. So I think that it's going to be a balance. I believe they'll be somewhat successful. I don't know what level. I think the theme of today's podcast being reinvention, I think they're reinventing with people with new blood, new money, some people who were there many years ago who saw the success of it. And I think there is a genuine excitement about it in the city because remember, when you go now to Apex, which is the old Ghost Bar, you have one of the best views of the entire city. So And that, Glenn, very technical term, that doesn't suck.
No. Oh my God. It so doesn't suck. I gotta tell all of you, if you've never been up to that space, you will be blown away by it. Man, it is such a great view up there. And I can't wait to see how they've managed to reinvent it for a, late 2018s, 1920s kind of universe that's going to be coming around.
Very, very intriguing. I've been through the hotel. I went to Camden, their new lobby bar, the bar off the lobby. I went to the center bar, which is called Unknown, which has the Damien Hirst shark as the art exhibit. And they're making changes, but at the same time, they've stuffed so many gaming machines in on the right side where you come in from the
local side.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting where they're balancing, the Red Rock Resorts mentality meets the locals, meets the tourists. And I mean, you can't see my hands, but we're going,
yes.
It's like Top Gun.
Yeah, they're crossing.
That way.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't really know, Red Rock Resorts, they've been extremely successful at creating amazing off-strip experience, including and especially the namesake, Red Rock Resort, which they took their name from after existing for a lot of years. That property to me has really hit on all marks, and they had one of the best pool environments that I've ever seen in Las Vegas as well.
It's funny you mentioned I happened to be there on Sunday. I was watching the Knights game. I saw the mix of locals and tourists. And in my opinion, it's one of the 3 most beautiful resorts we have in the entire city.
Terrific.
It's functional. It's effective. You have restaurants coming up. You have things going on. They continue to reinvent themselves. And I give them a lot of credit because you're talking 30-plus minutes off the strip. And I have friends constantly and consistently who are coming to town and say, I want to go to Red Rock. And I'm like, well, why? He's like, well, it's a 4 to 5-star hotel. I maybe want to go hiking. I maybe want to go shopping because downtown Summerlin's there. Maybe I want to go to the Knights practice facility. You're going to be able to hit a golf ball to the new AAA minor league baseball stadium that's opening over there.
Oh, cool.
So it's hot, man, and it's pretty. I mean, that is a pretty building. The room product is tremendous. You're right. You're spot on the pool. I mentioned to a couple people the other day that I went and watched the game out there. Everyone's like, oh, I love that pool. I'm like,
yep.
Spot on.
Yeah. And let me add one more thing. If you're creating a conference for people, every time I've attended a conference there, what I've loved most about it is that it creates a Las Vegas experience without the distraction of the Las Vegas Strip, which is just far enough away to get people to say, oh, I don't want to spend that much time and money to go back and forth from the Strip. So it keeps all of your people that you've worked so hard to get to your event to stay at the event while still giving them the full host of amenities and experiences that they're hoping for with the Las Vegas experience.
It's a great caveat. You're spot on because you can really be self-contained in there. And I've known so many people who've gone to conventions there, gone to conferences there, and it does work. It keeps them centrally located. You keep people out of trouble. There's still plenty of entertainment to have. And there, you can have a Vegas experience still in a casino that's 30 minutes off strip.
Yep. All right. So it would be foolish for us not to have a conversation with you before we wrap up. And we've already passed 30 minutes here. But since you are the consummate F&B professional, and for those of you who don't know, the Nyman Group is a behind-the-scenes organization that does consulting, restaurant management, executive search, all sorts of stuff that have really helped create the direction of food and beverage in so many ways that affect each and every one of your lives without even knowing it with their work behind the scenes with a lot of major brands. So Corey, what are you seeing out there right now that we should be excited about in terms of reinventing the way people eat and drink?
Well, I appreciate it, Glenn. We're fortunate we travel to so many markets and we work in around the country and international. And it still goes back to customization. The middle level of dining has really disappeared. It's coming back a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's the quick serve casual and then the top of the top.
Yep.
And I think that people really want that, the Chipotle style experience, whether it's, the Blaze Pizza or the other pizza concepts where they can really, it's the choose your own adventure idea where, you have the base, but I want to add, this, and guess what? It's never going to be bad because I made it. I chose, because we have all these, food and beverage experts, right? But the funny thing is we're still dealing with an extremely educated consumer base. People, they might not know everything, but they know certain specifics. Like I know, I sat down to dinner the other night. I had friends visiting from Florida. We went to Lago. I had not had a chance to dine there in a while. Sat down, and you know what? Him and his wife, they're in their late 30s, early 40s. They couldn't stop raving about bourbon. And so we're just sitting there, and I'm just listening, and it's great. And he's like, well, the ice and the this and the that. I'm like, fantastic. But that's his lane. That's the lane he wants to stay in. Just the same as his passion is sous vide cooking. Mm-hmm. Could have fooled me. I mean, but it's one of those great things. So I think that customization is still going to be there. Healthy. You know, people will always want to be bad. They'll always want their burger. They'll always want their fries. They'll always want their wings. But healthy. You know, you're going to see more and more of the Whole Foods mentality, more and more of the Sprouts. You will see more organic, more natural. I think organic has kind of gotten to its point, but you'll see more natural, where there are no GMOs, no hormones. And I think a lot of restaurants who have been doing it for so long will start pushing it out to the guest, saying, hey, we're doing this not only for you, for us. We want to be good stewards. And you're seeing a lot more of the transparency in food. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, any advice that the average hotelier out there that has a food and beverage experience within their properties can leverage for their own personal success?
I think tapping into your local market, your local farms, your local distilleries, your breweries, your wineries. You know, there's always something local, right?
Yep.
And people love discovery. They love the idea of sense of place. I mean, yes, people want what they're comfortable with. That's a big thing. But when people go to a certain market, doesn't matter where it is around the country, doesn't matter where it is around the world, that's part of their adventure. They want to know what's local, what's special, what's unique to this one place on earth, and why should I eat it? Why should I drink it? Why should I try it? Or should I meet that person? Listen, having hoteliers bring in the farmer, bring in the beekeeper, bring in the person who makes soap from whatever it is, really making sure use your city to your advantage, use your destination to your point to make you a better steward for your community.
Right. Excellent. Hey, and I talk a lot about living like a local here, and that's what your guests want to do, and it's up to you to create those localized experiences for them. Corey, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up today, but I know I've been plugging the heck out of you, but you got to plug yourself. Give me a good shameless one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Glenn. Very kind of you. Again, Corey Nyman, Director of Operations for the Nyman Group. We are based in Las Vegas. We're a second-generation boutique hospitality consulting firm. You can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, all the good places at the Nyman Group. You can find me at Eat, Drink Vegas. We are always looking for new projects. We're always looking to advise, to help. We do everything from working with quick serve all the way up to 5-star and fine dining. You can always find us, but remember, our role is only to make you better.
Yep, and they do it so well that I'm telling you guys and ladies out there that are listening, they have helped so many companies that but we can't tell you who they are. So, all right, let's wrap up this show. We're going to go to a commercial break, and when I get back from the other side, we're going to have another amazing interview. And I don't know which one I'm going to run yet. I've got so many in the can already, I could hardly choose. I've got the Sophie's Choice of interview decisions to make here, and I can't remember that thing. But the one thing I can remember is this important piece of advice. Whatever you do, take care of your shoes. We'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Glenn Hausman, and you know me from the No Vacancy podcast, but I have got an all-new show coming, and I'm partnering up with the #1 guy in hospitality, Mr. Anthony Melchiori.
Now, it's called the yin and yang of hospitality.
That's right.
So I need to know going forward, because I'm a control freak, am I yin or yang?
I'm definitely the one that starts with Y, and you could be whichever one you want to be.
I'll be the one that starts with Y.
All right, so you're going to have more great banter just like this every single episode on the yin and yang of hospitality, found wherever your favorite podcasts are available. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm yang.
All right, I'm Ying. Thanks for listening.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. I'm just channeling my inner Matthew McConaughey this morning here at the AHOA Convention, coming at you live from the convention floor here at the Gaylord National. And I'm excited today because I've got a guy I've known for quite some time, and I've been trying to learn more about his company. And, instead of doing it over cocktails, so let's get him on the microphone. Let's talk about it. I'm talking about Jim Alderman, Chief Development Officer of Extended Stay America, otherwise known as ESA ESA Management. Jim, how you doing, man?
Doing terrific, Glenn. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. Thanks for being here today. It's a big risk for you to be here today.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm a huge fan. Every Sunday night I look forward to it. Look down. Don't get a ton of work emails on Sunday night, but I look down and I see, Glenn's going to have something interesting going on in the podcast, so I look forward to it every week.
Well, great, thanks. Hopefully this interview will be an interesting one, and you'll be interested in hearing it on some Sunday night soon.
Let's give it a shot.
So, Extended Stay America, really interesting company to me. For those listeners of the show, you guys know I'm infatuated with the whole idea of extended stay, service apartments, all of these things, because I think it's really changing the dynamic of the industry and follows a lot of trends with how people want to stay today. More space, longer times, more comfort. But the story for me with ESA, it's not that it's just an extended stay. It's just that suddenly in the last year since you've come aboard, the whole idea of what the company wants to be has fundamentally changed. Before they went from wanting to franchise, they were all corporately owned. What point did you come into the conversation about making the switch to a more traditional franchise organization?
It was interesting. It took some time. When I first came in, ESA was still had a lot of the ownership was through the original partners of the private equity firms, Blackstone, Centerbridge, and Paulson, who bought it.
Blackstone, they are in the hotel industry at all. What haven't they owned?
Yeah, this was their second time through owning ESA, as you know and well remember. But it needed to evolve, and ESA had established a kind of a roadmap to the future as far as what ESA 2.0 was when Jerry Lopez came on, and now that's transitioned to Jonathan Haukyard, who is our new CEO, became CEO at the beginning of the year. Right. Formerly was our CFO, and before that was our chief operating officer. So he's obviously well rounded at ESA. But
I'm well rounded, but that's from hitting the buffet too many times.
I know, it was a good buffet this morning.
Yeah. Well, we're here at AHOA, so the Indian buffets are happening, and absolutely. I love it. I don't know if I've said it on the show before, but Indian buffet food is the best buffet food there is from any event that I go to, and I'm forced to eat buffets at convention centers. One, it's outside catering, but two, Indian food scales up better, I think, than other cultures' foods.
Yeah, I think you're right, and you can see the lines are incredibly long, and it's everyone wants to be in it. It's usually it becomes one of the best parts of it. So I'm like, a week before we head here, I tell my wife, no, we're not going to go out for Indian this week. I'm going to have great Indian for 2 days in a row. So. Yeah, it is terrific.
I like that. All right, so I feel like I could talk about Indian food for the rest of the show, but let's talk about ESA.
Yeah.
So continue with the story.
Yeah. So what it became the kind of a vision to the future in June of 2016. We announced what would be kind of our investor day and our look going forward. Mm-hmm. That included a prototype. That included the idea we would start to reduce ownership. To say we're going asset light, it's just false. It's asset lighter because we intend to still always own a core of hotels. And right now we've announced publicly we'll probably sell about 150. And as you know, and we've spoken about it before, we've had some recent transactions. We had a sale of 25 to Three Wall Capital led by Alan Kanders. And on our side, we just last week, we sold another one of our individual assets. So we generally sell in portfolios, but every once in a while we have a chance to sell an individual asset for kind of an extraordinary gain. So we sold an ESA in Austin, Texas for between $40 and $50 million. So it was a nice sale for us.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
It is. We're the benefactors, as you and I have spoken many times. Yeah. We're benefactors of just terrific locations that were selected by the people who originally put the company together. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, we honor and appreciate the life of Wayne Huizenga, and he passed recently, and he was obviously one of the founders of ESA.
I got to tell you, all the headlines were like Blockbuster founder,
I know.
not ESA founder.
Right. Now we were looking down. He's one of I think they said he's the only person to found 3 Fortune 500 companies. And
yep.
All right, we may not Fortune 500, but come on, we're on our way.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll have to redo his epitaph, soon enough. That's for sure. Okay, so. I'm curious as to what made you want to come for this organization. Yeah. You've got a rich pedigree. You've worked for some of the major hospitality companies, and making the switch to here, interesting challenge to me. What were you thinking when this opportunity came your way?
It was certainly not something that when I got the original call from their recruiter, it's not something that felt like a natural move. But then I started looking at it before, because as you know, ESA for years and years, except for its owners and its shareholders, did not necessarily have to project that much of a public face to the developer side of our community.
Hey, listen, I will tell you from my side, it was, hey, ESA, I'd like to talk to you about doing some publicity. Go away. Go away. We want to talk about anything. You don't mean anything to us, blah, 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 blah. But that's the nature of a public company, and I got it, but I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, but as you remember, we owned all of our hotels, so we didn't have, ESA didn't have at that point in time a public-facing effort, really a trade-facing effort, other than trying to just continue to land business and fill hotels that we owned and beneficial 100% to our own bottom line.
Yep.
But that's certainly a focus that has changed and has evolved since the middle of 2016 and to now, where we've launched our franchise program. We've staffed up. I've got a pretty big staff of folks who are really focused on new development through franchise and through our own growth. And we're really seeding that franchise growth by selling portfolios.
How do you start a franchise effort in an organization? How long does it take? What was that process like?
It's a lot easier when you've got 625 hotels that already exist.
Right.
And it's a lot easier, and I'm very fortunate, as we are at ESA, to be able to have the basis to seed the program with the sales. And that's what makes it very easy. And then that gets the interest out there. And as we continue to sell more in the next several years, that we're obviously going to put the people in line, who pay the most. That's what our duty as a fiduciary of a public company. But that line is going to generally be constructed of people who are doing business with us as franchisees. So it's kind of like, hey, if you want a shot at some stuff we're doing, we'd really like to engage with you before and know you're very sincere about it. Because when you have currency, like we have currency on hotels to sell,
right?
Obviously, there's a lot of buyers. We've got a lot of interest, overwhelming interest, and terrific pricing from what we see and what we've reported to the street. And to build on that, I need to translate that. Our team needs to translate that enthusiasm into some straight franchisees as well. How
long does it take you to build a team and get all ready in order to roll out this sort of an effort? Because I remember we were talking for a while, hanging out at the various conferences, and I was waiting, and then boom, it just seems to have appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, when you've been as many places as I've been and been around for a while, you do have kind of a group that you can reach out and say who's available and who fits. But this was fairly unique. And when you ask what attracted me, what was really the other part of that story is we're one of the only companies, especially for someone our size. We're over $6 billion enterprise value company. But when you consider that we are franchising, we are actually managing the portfolio we sold for Allen. We're managing. We'd rather sell just into straight franchising, but we're also developing our own. We're buying sites. We're selling properties. There's not a lot of people who are asset heavy. And we're a REIT, we're a paired-shared REIT, who own as many assets as we do, and we're still getting to develop, plus we're getting to sell. So I needed some people with some unique skill sets and really reached out and grabbed some great folks, Judy Bicklage, who is an industry veteran, and Steve Sheets and Steve Miller heading up our franchise group, and then we continue to staff up and had some great people that were already there that were part of ESA.
And it's one of those things, this industry, as big as it is, it's really super small at the same time, and everybody kind of knows each other. So I bet when you were I'm going to just guess that even before you said yes to taking this job, you already had some names in your head of people you'd like to see on your team.
Names in my head, and then phone calls that you start to get, and there's some people who are absolutely a natural for it, and you see, but a lot of us, we tend to stick together. I always tell people it feels a little bit insular at times, almost like the NFL coaching community.
Right.
You do need to continue to open it up, and that's what we try to do. And so I've reached out for some of the positions we're looking to fill and said, look, I'd love to see what the new blood is to get into this area, because it gets harder and harder to retain the talent, the development talent inside all the hotel companies versus seeing it migrate to the private equity groups. So the offers of riches and treasures at the PE companies are certainly open the eyes of a lot of the young talent in this industry, and I think that we need to make sure some of it stays on this side.
Yeah. So in a world like all these hotel companies are consolidating and coming together, you're a renegade out there. You take a job for a single branded hotel company, which are starting to come a little bit fewer and far between.
Single brand.
I don't know. I like to ask this question sometimes to people: are you crazy or are you a genius? What were you thinking?
I think there are a lot of more people, friends of yours and mine, who would say, "There's no question that I'm fully crazy."
Right. Okay. I should have broken out the statement. Not you generally, but your career choices.
No, but you're right. I mean, a single brand, but it was the fact that it was. It was so richly rooted in real estate. Mm-hmm. And when you take a look at we've got hotels in neighborhoods. I'll give you one, for example. And I love to get micro on stuff. When you own 125, I just love to get micro and down to the property number
right.
hotel. But Google has basically bought everything in the neighborhood but our hotel.
Right.
And we're sitting there with a 3-story exterior corridor campus-style hotels, because several of our hotels are still exterior corridor from companies that we've acquired or original ESA builds. And you look at what they've been paying for everything around there, and you smile, ear to ear, and go, "Wow, I'm really sitting on some terrific real estate." Everywhere we exist in San Jose, Google is next to or building, or Sunnyvale, or Mountain View. It's kind of unbelievable to look at how many corporate campuses we're on. And part of when I was looking at joining the company, when I found out how much corporate business they did. I mean, there's an enormous amount of corporate business in my head, and maybe not in your head, but certainly, prejudicially in my head.
Right, I got nothing in my head.
Coming from the big brands, when you think corporate business, I think group, corporate, travel,
right.
Starwood, where I had been, or Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt. We have an enormous amount of corporate business, and we're on the corporate campuses of Qualcomm, Visa,
really?
Boeing. I mean, we've got Microsoft in Redmond. We've got some locations that, Corey Oates and the team that used to be here, and Corey's got his own company now. Obviously, I don't need to be a commercial for them, but some of the real estate they picked is just fantastic. It's helped. What's really helped drive our company. We just hope to continue to keep up that rich tradition and really bring in new people who are going to continue to establish that for themselves, because it's a model that works, with labor being the main focus. I mean, almost
right.
The third of the articles I read, labor concerns coming out of the LA conference, or out of Alice, labor concerns coming out of Hunter, labor concerns coming out of AHOA. Okay, we have generally 12 people working at our hotels.
Right, which is terrific compared to what it could normally be. So I just want to unpack that a little bit, so people that are not experts in the hospitality industry, such as yourself, could understand. So you have a hotel, full service hotels. You've got a much larger ratio of, it's more of like a 1-to-1, 1-to-2 ratio between guests and staff members, right? So that's at like the luxury level. When you get down to a select service hotel, you've still got a good number of people, maybe in the 30s or say. I'm just saying, just for example, not specific numbers, because each hotel is different depending on size and amenities, blah, blah, blah. But 12, that's a pretty good number. And that's why people seem to really like that formula of extended stay, I think, on the ownership side. Because even in an era without rising labor, you can still get control of that. Plus, you got guests that are staying for longer periods of time, so you don't need those people to service them. And I think the longer that you stay in a hotel, the less attention and individualized attention you need by people as well.
Right. And generally, it's when you have a model where with the long-term guests and you housekeeping is offered once a week to those guests, there are plenty of guests who are very long-term guests that don't even necessarily want the housekeeping once a week. They know what days you're coming, and they'll hang that sign on. And of course, you need to get in the room because you own the asset, and you want to be prudent. But it's this focus on really the long-term guest, with over half of the house in our hotels there for kind of 60 days plus, and on average it fluctuates during the year, but about a 24 to 27 length of stay, 24 to 27 day length of stay. It really provides for some efficiencies, and that's what makes it so effective. And it's something you got to keep your eye on, and it's part of the renewed focus that Jonathan Haukyard, our CEO, has brought to our company, which is let's focus on that long-term guest. And there's kind of three. There's that 1 to 6, the transient guest, the 6 to kind of 20 guest, which is extremely profitable for owners like us and like our home members here. And then there's the even longer term guests, as we spoke before we started. But I've met guests in a hotel in Dunwoody, Georgia, he's been living there 10 years. I mean,
10 years?
10 years.
Geez, that's insane. You probably could have owned the asset by this point.
I know. I just don't necessarily know what the motivation is, but maybe it's, one of those guys who just needs to be able to,
Does he ever get housekeeping?
I'm sure. You do with long-term stay, you do end up with some interesting things. We've got some guests that can like to get creative with their rooms after a while.
I would imagine, because they want to put their personal imprint on it and make it more like their own. If they're staying for a long time, of course they're going to do that. I'm interested about the housekeeping thing, because I used to be a purist. What do you mean I'm not going to have housekeeping every single day?
Right.
And I started to realize I really don't want housekeeping every single day, even in transient stays. If I'm in a place 2-3 days, I don't need people coming into my room every single day, changing the sheets, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't do that at home, right? So why would I do it? Why would I do it while I'm away? Plus, I kind of like I like fooling myself to pretend I think I have privacy, right? Because I know it's really the responsibility of the hotel to come in and check to make sure things are okay today, especially in this day and age. So I think that you guys were, the whole segment was really ahead of the time right now when it comes to that. And it's just really something that's not necessary to have every single day. And I'm sure your guests are just like, once a week's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, the towels and the linens. Come in, and if all they want is the linens change, that's a once a week thing. And the towels, I feel the way you do, Glenn. I honestly wish, when I'm in a hotel for more than 2 or 3 days, I wish there was just a slot on the door and I could just say towels.
That's right. Yeah,
that's all I want. I'll make my own bed. I'll straighten everything else. I just want towels.
I like that. Instead of having a mail slot, have a towel slot. Just slide them in, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, because with our electronics these days, we spread out. We're everywhere, and it's like, all right, I'm going to leave during the day, but I don't want to feel like I have to demobilize a construction site before I leave my room and lock everything down. Not a lot easier to just say I'm leaving and no one's coming in. And long-term guests know that. I mean, it becomes their home, for a certain period of time. And, you don't want to feel like I got to put my home on lockdown every day.
Oh, I didn't realize it was electronics that was the issue. For me, I just don't want them smoking my crack. But, all right. Whatever. I like to keep it timely with 1980s drug references.
Why not?
So the hotels run really efficiently, and You've now kind of changed the policy where you can allow owner, resident, manager, whatever to live there, which is kind of cool. It harkens back to me. I think there's a lot of connections to me in that particular sense with the HOA community, whose families used to come over here and live in the hotel. So I kind of think that's kind of a return to cool hospitality from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's never because our brand standards were 100% for us, but as we were putting together brand standards, we said, we took a look and said, should we allow resident managers to say, well, that's how the company was built. Several of these used to be resident manager models with the ESA. So that's something that we took a look at, and that's the way they're set up. And when you run into guests who have been there for 60 days or 6 months or 10 years, as we spoke before, then it'd be odd to say, well, my manager couldn't live here. And certainly someone who is the owner and the manager couldn't live here. And the model does, it does harken back to a different day. But I believe the model is so well thought of now in the fact that the long-term stay is really part of, or at least the format of a long-term stay hotel is in the pantheon of everyone's brands at this point in time. So I think the idea that people are here for a long time or people live here, it's just, that's just the way it is. And in a transient society, as far as a workforce that doesn't necessarily want to move, it's harder and harder to really move or sell your house. Getting these long-term stays and filling these hotels up with people who are there as their second place versus moving, because jobs become transient. Then I think that model works great for an owner. It works also great because it is a simplistic model. It's 8 to 12 people. And depending on what type of business that you're actually taking and the dynamics of your length of stay.
That's great. And going back to getting guests to come, when you have guests that are staying for such a long period of time, you don't need to acquire nearly as many guests, which kind of, I would say, saves expenses on going out with the marketing and stuff like that. But speaking of marketing, I love ESA's cheeky marketing. It never takes itself too seriously. It's always a lot of fun, and that's kind of why I always wanted to talk to ESA even before you came aboard, because too many hotel companies, I think a lot of their ads all kind of look the same. You know, I get these email things all with this gorgeous picture of, for example, the one that I hate most of all is the woman getting massaged with the stones on her back. Because that, or two people walking on the beach holding hands, right? That kind of thing. But, it's kind of like a wink and a nod, like, to your audience. It's like, hey, we're not going to take ourselves seriously. We're going to have a little bit fun. I think it's the tone and the tenor of what the brand is all about.
Right. I that's what's interesting is the first time I went on and signed up, said I want to get these alerts, so I signed up for it. So I started to get them months before I started with ESA. When I got there, I was like, you do a really good job on this, and that's the genius of a lot of people in the marketing group. But one of the primary ones who is in charge of that is Christopher Thomas Moore, and you should have him on the show. He's a real talent.
I mean, I love getting things for Arbor Day, stuff like that. Right? It's different, it's fun, and that's really something that I want to do myself. Send out a meeting instead of saying, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or something like that. Happy Chocolate Cake Day, or something like that. Because it's much more fun. I think it sticks better with people. We fight so much for people's attention. You need to find a way to break through that clutter, and you guys have really done that in a terrific sort of way. Right. But the other thing that you need to really think about beyond marketing, especially as you're trying to roll out and get these franchisees on board, is a new prototype. And I bet you've got one cooking, because you wouldn't be a respectable brand if you didn't.
We do. We've got our two, what I call, when you go to the Detroit Auto Show and you take a look and you say, wow, that's a car I would love to drive. And you never get to, because it never makes it out there. We've built a couple of model rooms in our Charlotte Support Center that are prototypical model rooms that were really nice, and included a couple features that ended up, kind of being nice to have versus definitely going to have, or available for the right budget. But yes, we're in the kind of the second iteration of our prototype. When Jonathan took over as CEO, he took a look at the cost of our prototype, which really worked for kind of everything we were doing and building, and the corporate sites that we were taking a look at. But he took a look at it from the point of view of, shouldn't we try to bring this cost down? So we're trying to take about $20,000 a key out of the cost of where we were, because there became an arms race in this side of the business, Glenn, with all of a sudden Home2 announcing and getting to 350 executed agreements, or wherever they are now.
But they have more than 200 open now, and a whole lot more coming down the pike.
Right. They're just, would you just look at how, and I know it's a cardinal sin to mention the competition, but we're not building to that level. But the idea of when you see all of this happening, and we're kind of going from Gen 1 to our Gen 7 because we built nothing in between. Right. It's been almost 12 years since we opened the very last ESA.
So it's fair to say then, instead of taking incremental steps, you're really reinventing everything and almost starting from scratch.
Almost starting from scratch, and that's what got us to a little bit of an escalated price. And now we're taking a look and saying, with Jonathan, he was like, focus on the long-term guest, give the guest what they value and what they will pay for, and try to make that, let's come up with a new version of that, and that's what the new prototype is, and it will be successful. Our schematics are done now; they're out on the website. It's a very tight prototype, about 124 keys. We can get it on 2 acres. Now, when I say 2 acres, they got to be 2 perfect acres.
Right. Not a weird shape.
Yeah, I'm not generally buying 2 acres, but if you've got a straight
they shouldn't
line
look
building,
nothing like congressional districts that have been gerrymandered.
No, not necessarily. Not a reverse C or a double L or something like that. But this is in a straight line prototype. Our goal is to get this to under $70,000 a key.
Wow.
But the thing is, when I say that number, I kind of almost hesitate to throw out that number. When I say that, franchisees, and certainly the talent that's in the giant room behind me here at Ahoacan, they're better at this than we are. Okay, that's just the fact. I mean, we are a company. We're a public company, and we, our bid process and things we do, certainly we drive the lowest we possibly can. But Bharat Patel can show up and find a warehouse full of stone for 10 cents on the dollar, and buy it. And I know Bharat has done this before, and buy it to put in all of his future hotels. It might be nicer stone than the brand even would spec, but he got it for 10 cents on the dollar. Public companies don't really have the ability to act in that manner, to be that entrepreneurial. So if I say I can do something at 70, I guarantee you most of the people behind me will do it at less.
One of the things that I've noticed, Jim, and you make a great point with that, is that a lot of the brands, I think, have gone away from trying to put everything into a room and are trying to focus on some key items, right? And you mentioned guests what they need, right? So what is it that you feel your guests need as opposed to what everyone thinks they want?
80% of our guests cook in the room.
Mm-hmm. Really?
That is of the long-term guests.
And by cook, do you mean open the fast food bag and
yeah, like you and I cook? Yeah. No, it's a. For us, it is it's 2 burners. Mm-hmm. It's the microwave, and it's the full-size refrigerator. We always say we'd like to big enough to be able to get a pizza box, and I always try to play it both ways here. So the pizza box or a case of beer, or a pizza box or a case of water, whatever.
Right.
Because if we get a soccer team coming in, it's a case of water.
Or a case of Olympia, which is pretty much water.
Yeah.
It's right there in the can. It's the water.
That was some of the best beer when we were growing up.
I make fun of it.
I loved the cans.
I make fun of it lovingly because that was my college beer. I think it was in 1991. It was like a case of beer for like $3.99 or something like that.
It was always the cheapest keg too.
Yes. So I say I make fun of them with love.
Right.
Don't sue me, Olympia. You're a great company.
It's affection.
All right, so go on.
So, but it's really it's a kitchen that works, and so it's a stove, it's a microwave, it's a sink, it's a full size refrigerator, and a space that's big enough to be able to live in, and that's really all they need. Right. Or all they need at our level. Certainly there are other levels within, where we play, but we're in the mid down to economy in some places, but in generally in the mid level of extended stay.
Excellent. So what are you thinking about the future? What are your expectations for all this?
We'll see. I really hope that everyone sees the value in the business model that is here, and people talk. What's your RevPAR penetration? And this is really, it's not necessarily the way to look at this brand, but there's only a certain amount of public measuring sticks that are out there, right? Mm-hmm. But when you think about extended stay, you need to think about bottom line. You need to think about. Very recently, we looked at a similar format hotel. Very similar format. I could take the sign down, put up an ESA sign, and tomorrow would be fine. Right. They have 27 employees. We would have taken them down to 12. Mm-hmm. That's a major difference.
Yeah, major.
At that level, and at an average 24-day length of stay in that market, or probably higher. It's probably a higher market. It was a college market, near a metropolitan area. That we probably could have some pretty serious reductions in their expenses, and I can say that because I'm not making any kind of earnings claim, because the franchisees is for something that we were looking at buying ourselves, right. And it's really it's the excitement behind that model. It's the excitement behind wow, that's really how I can run this. Given if I stick with the model, always the tendency to take the transient business. Let me just light up the OTAs and let me take that transient business, and you can do it. And you'll be cleaning the room, and your guest satisfaction will suffer because your hotels are not designed to optimize transient business. Right.
So then how do you go ahead and find that longer term business? I feel like if a hotelier hasn't been in the extended stay business before, they probably need a little bit of advice or training or something along those lines.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what comes with signing up with ESA is we have a giant sales stadium, call centers. We've been putting more than 50% of the business in our hotels from these channels that we put out there in the FDD, and we'll certainly we'd love to go over with any of these franchisees, but we're putting that business in these hotels, just like Marriott has a pipeline, Hilton has a pipeline, they have their the way that they fill their hotels through their different channels. And we have the exact same thing in corporate business and a sales stadium of 100. I think there's 140 people in the sales stadium. Wow! Throughout the country that work on filling ESAs.
Right. Awesome. Any final thoughts, Jim?
Final thoughts is, wow, has AHOA grown? I mean, this is this convention is gigantic. It's fantastic. To see an industry group with as much kind of power to as AHOA has responsibly kind of wielded, because this group is so big at this point in time that they can make or break a brand.
Right, they sure can.
They are that powerful, and it's fantastic that all of the CEOs now come to speak here. And I know Jonathan is looking forward to doing that next year. We just dipped our toe in the water, and so we have the last booth on the left type of thing, last exit to Brooklyn. But yeah, it's a fantastic show. I'm a huge fan of yours and a huge fan of this. I think that this needs to transcend and be on the Travel Channel. So I wouldn't need so many shows about haunted houses on the Travel Channel. What does it say about our industry when there's more food shows on the Travel Channel than there are travel shows? This No Vacancy needs to move to the Travel Channel.
Well, thank you. If you're listening, Discovery Communications, who's buying the Travel Channel right now, get me a show, or at least everyone tune into the No Vacancy podcast this week, or the soon to come, yet to be named show that I'll be doing each and every week, a new podcast with Anthony Melchiori, who happens to be on the Travel Channel. So maybe I'll get a little bit of love from that. All right. Jim, shameless plug for yourself and your company, please.
Yeah, everybody, please visit newesa.com. That's our website where we're going to have our franchise prototype information, and we'd love to have you stop by our booth. Again, last one down on the right there.
All right, but more importantly, how can they find you long term? Because this will be released as a podcast as well in the future.
Long term, go to newesa.com and click on contact is the best way.
That's the best way? All right, great. Well, I'm so glad that you were here today, and I'm so glad that each and every one of you were watching, listening, and learning along with us today. I had a lot of fun. I've been meaning to get Jim on the mic for a long, long time, so it is about time. So thanks for listening. For Jim Alderman and myself, I'll be back next week. That is, unless I decide to lock myself in an ESA for a good decade. We'll be back next time. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.